Good day, everyone, and welcome to Home at the Hollow, to my kitchen, and to the 12 days of Christmas cookies. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's cookie recipe is actually not a cookie, so to speak. I have made red velvet cake balls. It was so much fun to make these. And, you know, it kind of course, you guys are going to hear this time and again. I could see where there was portions of the recipe, if you have children or grandchildren, to incorporate them into the process of, you know, having fun, getting in the spirit, and learning a little bit about kitchen work. So if red velvet cake balls is something that you might consider making this holiday season, or if you just want to hang out with me for a little while, then keep watching. So guys, what we're starting off with is a sheet cake I made. I did not make this on camera. It basically used a cake mix, a red velvet cake mix. As you guys know from a previous video, I went going through my pantry and I found several cake mixes. I guess they got moved in the move, but I wanted to go ahead and use these up. And so what I did is I used the cake mix with 1 cup of whole milk and 1/3 of a cup of melted butter. If you want to add a little bit of vanilla to this, then that's okay. But I allowed it to cool overnight, and I basically just tore it out of the 13x9 pan. I baked it for about 30 minutes. It took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but 13x9 pan, 30 minutes. Of course, I'll leave everything in the description box below. But what I'm going to get started on is a little bit of the filling for this particular these crumbs. I'm going to put in a stick of butter or 1/2 cup of butter, salted, unsalted, whatever works for you guys. I'm going to get this going. Get my crumbs out of the way. I always seem to make a pretty good mess. This would be a great job for some children. I wish I had some little hands close by to do this for me. But you know what? They have to learn somehow, and they may very well make a mess, but that's why we have vacuum cleaners and brooms and things like that. So I'm going to add just a wee bit of vanilla to this, just a little bit. I have an 8-ounce package of very soft cream cheese. I'm going to add this. And I'm going to get this mixed up very well. Very smooth, very creamy, probably, I'm going to say 3 to 5 minutes. And that's just a big guess. But I'm going to get this mixed up till it's as smooth as what I think it should be. And I will be right back. So we've been beating this at a pretty good pace. And I think you guys can see. It looks beautiful, but I'm going to scrape this down just to make sure that everything is as mixed up as possible. And we will get there, but it's looking just really very nice, very fluffy, beautiful. I think we've gotten as far as we can with getting this nice and creamy. It turns lighter. It's just beautiful, a beautiful thing. But I've got 4 cups of confectioner sugar that I'm going to slowly add to this until it's very smooth. And yes, it all needs to go in, so I'm going to get this added in, and I will be back in a moment. So I've been working on my filling here. I think that I have crumbled this well enough, but I'm going to take a moment to scrape these sides down to make sure everything is as good as it possibly can be. And let's have a look-see, because I can see as I'm mixing this where some of the confectioner sugar is kind of languishing. There's a very special spot on these bowls that just right there, it just seems to just want to stay, but very, very thick. And I'm sure it tastes, delicious. I mean, it's cream cheese, guys. Oh, I got some on my finger. Yes, that tastes excellent. I'm going to give this another minute or two, and I'll be right back. So I've measured out 2 cups of my cream cheese mixture. Let's get this off of here. You probably will have a little bit left over. It's not a great deal, but I'm going to clean this out. You guys know I try not to be very wasteful, but I'm going to get this cleaned out and in a really great freezer container and save it for, oh gosh, I don't know. There's a myriad of things you could add it to the next cream cheese icing that you make. But we're going to get this mixed up really well. And start getting these formed up. So I have these formed up. With my scoop, it's about 32. So what I'm going to do is cover these with plastic wrap and refrigerate these a minimum of 8 hours. And there you go. And I will get this done, and we will be back to get these dipped. So guys, my cake balls are totally chilled. I chilled them 8 hours, and I really wanted to overnight them. And so what I've done is, instead of just covering them and keeping them in the fridge, I've got them in a container because I didn't want them to dry out. So the important thing about working with a recipe like this and then covering it in warm chocolate is you want these to be as chilled as possible. So work in small batches. This 10 ounce, you're going to need 3. If you're going to cover all of your cake balls that this recipe makes, you're going to need 3 10-ounce packages of white vanilla flavored melting wafers. I'm going to get out I've got 1 10-ounce package here in my pot that I have on my warming center on low. If you don't have a warming center, which this is quite frankly the first time I've ever had a warming center, if you have a double boiler, I think that's probably the way to go. You can microwave of course in a microwavable bowl. You can melt your wafers like that. I have kind of mixed reviews as far as microwaving them, but if it works for you, then hey, you go for it. But I'm going to work in very small batches. This 10-ounce package will probably cover 15, 16 cake balls. And one of the great and most important things about this particular recipe is to keep these chilled. So say I'm going to be working with 15 this morning. The rest I will either put back in the freezer or put back in the fridge. One or the other. You just don't want these sitting in room temperature for too long. especially when you're going to be putting warm chocolate on them, or melting wafers. My apologies. I've got everything ready for myself to start. I've got some red sanding sugars, colored sugar. So, you know, basically everyone will know it's like a red velvet cake ball. I've got blue because I like blue. Blue and white is really, really pretty. If you're doing something a little bit more adult-like, I have some black sanding sugars for a black and white effect. And I also have an orange sanding sugar for supporting the Tennessee Volunteer, orange and white. So whatever way you want to approach it, you go for it. But I'm going to let this get totally melted, and I will be back, and we will get this party started. So guys, my white, I guess you could call it chocolate or melting wafers, is totally melted. It looks really, really good from here, and I'm going to keep that on low. I have taken just out of my fridge. I'm going to take just a few out, and let's see. I'm going to leave these now. Typically, you can leave them, you know, form them in your hands and make them round, turn them into cake pops. But this is going to be for a more adult oriented affair, so to speak. So I'm going to just get one and give it a good go. And let's see. It's been so long since I have covered anything with melting. Let's get this, pull this out of here. And I know I'm going to make a mess, and that's okay. Ooh, that is definitely a messy. And another one, and I'll just completely cover this. I'm going to do this one in blue. I think I really, really like blue. I think you guys probably already know that, but I really enjoy blue and white and the cooler colors of Christmas. I don't mind red and green, but that was kind of like from my childhood, and I like to do something a little different now that I can do it on my own. I'm going to do a little bit of black. Get another one. And as you can see, this is just how easy it is. That one's not quite. And of course, if you want to, you can also melt some regular, like semi-sweet chocolate if you want to, and just drizzle over the white once it's totally cooled off. I'm going to let this drip as much as it can. There you go. And I will do this one. I'm going to do all my colors. But it's important to do them as soon as they come out of the chocolate, because they are going to set up very, very quickly. I'm going to, as soon as I finish these, I'm going to set these right back in the fridge, and that's where they'll be. One more for the Tennessee Volunteers. You know, I had to include those a little bit. And there you go. So I'm going to just kind of carry on forward and do as many as this chocolate will allow me to. And we will be back in a few minutes with a taste test. Well, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? It was a little bit time consuming because I allowed mine to refrigerate overnight. Probably you guys won't need to do that, but these came out so well. They are so rich. Oh my goodness, one is plenty for me. I actually ate two. And when I started on the second one, I was like, oh, I'm not sure I can. But they were so good. And here we have a bunch of colors to celebrate virtually almost everyone. Red and white for Roll Tide. For the Tennessee fans, blue and white because, gosh, I like blue. And of course, something a little bit, we have some black sprinkles here for a black and white theme, if that's where you're going. But we're going to I'm going to take one of these and we're going to cut into this. They cut really easily. You think, oh, that's going to be hard and that's going to be hard to eat. But actually, they weren't. You can see it's definitely red. They're delicious. I am not going to eat more right now. I'm just not going to. But you guys, these were so good. And just a lot of fun. It kind of reminded me when my son was young, helping me with Thanksgiving dressing, crumbling it up. Certainly, if you can bake this sheet cake off, and that's so easy, and just allow it to cool, those kids will have a ball. They will love it. I hope you try the recipe. It's a lot of fun. It's a little bit different, something bright and cheerful for your cookie tray or your sideboard or what have you. But I do want to have just a wee bit of a tip or chat here. I bought several different white, and you can't really say chocolate, but white melting wafers. The very best that I used was this particular brand. I have a warming center. I did not bother to microwave it or put it on a double boiler. I wanted to actually try out my warming center. This particular brand, smooth, silky, it just flowed like a dream. Very well worth the extra money, guys. But please spare yourself, save yourself. Do not buy this. Please just don't. I know most of us are budget conscious, and you might be going, oh, but I save, and I don't know the price difference, but $1 or $2 or whatever. That's a lot of money. These do not work. I had 3 different things going, melting chocolates going, and I would do 10 ounces, another 10 ounces, and another 10 ounces because it takes a good bit of chocolate to cover all the red velvet cake balls, right? And so I got the first one done. This was no problem. And so I started on the second batch. I started totally over with, the same pan, but clean, and kerplunked the whole thing in there and put my warming center on low. And I'm watching and I'm watching. I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to put it to medium. Same exact way I did this. And, and I've got my spatula and I'm working it and I'm trying to work it and I'm like, what's wrong with this, right? So I stayed with it. I mean, I didn't want it to sit there and who knows what happens to it. And I had, like I said, I'm stirring and I'm trying to work with it. Turned it up to high. It got to the point where it looked melted, but it was rock solid. I mean, I could barely, I couldn't even stir this. So please save yourself. Do not buy this brand of melting chocolate. You'll save $1 or $2, but boy, you're going to wind up spending more money going back to the store for this. And that's what I've got to say. I don't like to trash brands, and I'm not sponsored by anyone. But I was kind of mad because we've had rain. It's been raining. It's still raining, and we've got more rain to come. And I really, honestly, do not want to drive down the mountain, to replace this. So just a word of warning to you guys, but the recipe really rocks. You're gonna love it. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me here, home at the Hollow. Goodbye, guys.